And I think we are going free. How is everybody doing today? Rushing around here again as usual. So much to do, so little time, so few seconds in a day. Why have we been robbed? We need more time. That's why we work so hard. I hope everybody is having a fabulous Sunday evening or Monday morning. It's great to be here with you all, as always. I see Fernal is here. Hello, my good friend, responsible for so many of the wonderful things that we've been able to put up on these Going Free streams. Right here at the start is no exception. Raymond is here. Great to see you. Johnny Scythe, good evening to you, good brother. Put up a couple of the videos that you have, snippets that you supplied me. I think we're actually going to, I was thinking about that yesterday evening, how I'm going to have you, and I think I'm going to reach out to you and the cultural oncologist shortly with my idea about maybe a little bit of a different idea of how I want to do this. Your end will be pretty much the same, but there's going to be a little bit different way we're going to be uploading. But I'll be in touch and we can deal with that then. I see Laura's here. Great to see you. Asking if it's Valentine's Day. I don't know. Does it look like Valentine's Day in my attire or my setting? It's no longer Halloween, I'm afraid. All of the decorations are gone. Lil Frigg, I see. Pre-Semite, Jade Lee. Heidi, great to see you. Thank you so much. Pink tie, yes, indeed. Heidi, and thank you for the pink tie. Rick is here. Great to see you all. Folks, if you haven't done it yet, please like the stream. We really should make this a habit. Wow. PhilosopherCat is with us. A big pleasure to see you here at the beginning of Going Free this Sunday evening or Monday morning, depending where you are on the planet Earth. We got a few things to talk about today, and anything you all want to bring up as well. Let me look over here at gardening with NWG. I see Scottish Satire is here. Great to see you. George BS is here. Ooga Booga is over there on gardening. Adam Scott, great to see you all over there. Please like the stream over there as well. Share the links if you could. With your circles of influence so we can bring as many people into Going Free. Ladies and gentlemen, when I was down in Mississippi for the celebration of Political Cesspool, 15 years on the air, truly a magnificent time. I can tell you that when people hear about Going Free, when they come to these streams, when they see the things that we are doing, they get excited. You're not, this isn't a spitting into the wind. This isn't a hope that people are going to hear what we're doing here and maybe they'll think about it. Maybe this will work. Maybe. I had the entire time I was down there, people who were going free, but more importantly, those who had never heard about it, and they were hearing about it for the first time from some of you, lovely people, hearing about it for the first time from me, and they were fired up. They were excited. They were passing me notes the entire time. They're all over my desk. I'm going to keep them. But a lot of them's writing things like, thanks for all you do. And I won't go through. There's so many wonderful, maybe next stream, I'll read some more of those. But passing me notes the entire time. Part of the reason why when I say passing me notes, it wasn't because I was ignoring them in any way. But it was because I was always talking with people. Wonderful people were coming up. Laura can attest to that. She was there. And the entire time. And so folks were taking the opportunities they had. They were making use of what was available. And they felt that, and don't ever, if you see me having a conversation, we're out, unless it's obviously something that is private and I ask for the privacy, then come on up and join in the conversation. Always glad to have you. And when you're a newcomer here, if you're watching live for the first time or you're watching in replay, you are welcome. I mention a lot of the names, a lot of the people I know, they know each other. And I know how difficult it can be when you go to a new environment, and maybe we've all done this. You've gone to a party with a friend and the only person you know there is that one friend. And how out of place do you feel? Everybody is having these conversations and they have these histories and they're telling jokes about 10 years ago, and you're just meeting them for the first time. Well, don't feel that way when you come to the community for White Wellbeing. You are welcome. And please, if you want, speak up. If you want, stay silent. If writing in the live chat isn't for you, you can try in the thread once the video is posted. Post some comments there, or just as so many people do, as the vast majority do, they just listen or watch Going Free streams. They have their Going Free, and I don't know how much talking about it we'll do during this stream, but we definitely are going to be talking about Going Free, the second edition, which is much larger than the previous Going Free. Many mean curatives in here, so things that you can use right now to begin curing yourself of the thought diseases that you have been infected with for the totality of your lives, curing your loved ones, your children, inoculating your children against the mean pathogens with which the anti-whites infect them, MPs. And if you're new, you will be hearing that a lot, because that is the source of what cripples us, are these mean pathogens, these MPs that we are infected with from so early in our lives that we are not able, certainly initially, to distinguish our identities from those ideas. So all of those ideas that you learn when you are very young become part and parcel of your identity. And it becomes very difficult when you are an adult to try to, you can't really extirpate them. I mean, we could talk about that in I guess to give a visual of what's happening. But really, it is a lifelong treatment for the rest of your life to deal with those recurring ideas that are just so deeply embedded. And by the depth, they exercise that much more power over our identity. That is why it is so important that we keep our children away from anti-whiteism, that we bring a wall down between them and the anti-whites. Just ask yourself, would a little bit of poison in your child's system be acceptable if it were put into their food or drink? Well, it's so much worse when it's put into their minds. That is what anti-whiteism is, poison. You have to keep them away from the poison. And the mean curatives will serve you well to inoculate them, because they're going to go out into society. They're going to see billboards. They're going to see magazine covers. They're going to be seeing these things, and they need to know why they're seeing them. This antiquated, wizened method that the anti-whites have given us, and a great many erudite, sophisticated, kind, wonderful people in the white positive sphere continue to support this idea that you don't tell your children about what the anti-whites are doing to us. You just teach them what's good and what's bad, and then you let them make their own decisions. Well, they're children. They're not going to be making their own decisions. Either you are going to decide for the welfare and well-being of our people, or the anti-whites are going to decide for the ill-being of our people. That is what has been happening to our people. So no longer, no other race of people has come to such an idiotic conclusion that they're just going to teach their children right from wrong, and then they're going to allow them to make all of their own decisions without telling them what's really going on in the world, without telling them that there is an anti-white superstructure out there that is going to create a world in which they've incentivized things for the individual that will harm our people and therefore your children, without telling them that that is absolute cowardice. That is depravity. It is to shirk your duty as a parent, and you should feel ashamed. If you are one of those parents who has held this idea that you should let your children just go decide for themselves, and now you've just learned and heard the rationale and the logic that they're not going to be thinking anything for themselves, they're just going to be adopting what they're told is, this is what society expects of you, this is what society condemns. They're just going to adopt that. If you are of that state of mind, now is the time to change. That you are going to intervene and you're going to save their lives. Quite literally. That isn't hyperbole. Too many times, our young men and women make decisions about where they're going to go, where they're going to spend their time, who they're going to spend their time with, where they're going to go on vacation, based in the anti-white narrative, a fiction, not in the real world. And then they get these places and they're raped and they're murdered and they're beheaded, etc. So this is literally saving their lives. But for far more, it's going to be an infliction of injury that is going to be perhaps something that they wish they had died, that they would have to, if they could have avoided it. So let's see who else is here. DJ is here. Square root of 2. Brand danger. Eternalism. Let's see. DJ says, I think these streams in Jason's firm and positive outlook have rubbed off on me and is helping me in my life. I feel different and positive about many things. Amen, brother. Amen. Thank you very much for that testimonial about what we're doing here, Going Free. Here, ladies and gentlemen, you're either going free or you're going to hell. There's no middle ground. You are going free or you are going to hell. And I don't mean a fiction. I mean, you are going to live in a veritable hell, and your children are absolutely going to live in hell. That is what the anti-white is rapidly making of all of our countries in Western civilization. We need only look to recent memory, places like Rhodesia and South Africa, for the kinds of living hells. So you are either going to go free or you're going to go to hell. And the time now, and we're going to be talking about it with the event horizon. The time is now. The time is now to community build. It's not time to just to worry about to piss and moan about complaining about this or that, or they shouldn't be allowed to do this or that when talking about the anti-whites. Now is not the time for excuses. Now is not the time for tomorrow. Now is the time for getting to work right now on what we have to do to ensure our well-being. And the primary point of that, the primary element, the fundamental factor that is going to take us from here to there is community. And we'll be talking about that. We cannot say it enough. Ooga Booga is here. It's great to be back with you all. Let's see. Michelle is here. Southern Bloom. Great to see you all. Cindy Ben. JT Smith. Beer Hall Putsch. Harbinger says, is that the Skyrim logo on your book? I don't know what Skyrim is. That a video game? The symbol on my book here is from Prometheus Rising. It has a technical name in geometry, which is the tetragonal trapezohedron. I don't know what the symbol on the game of Skyrim, or is it a board game or both game? I don't know. Let's see, what else do we have here? Harbinger says, you're dressed too nicely. What's her name? No, I got dressed up for you all. This is just work clothing, and so it's the reverse, using the light tie as a power tie on a dark canvas. You don't see this often. All right, let's see. I haven't visited many places. I saw a question about visiting places in Mississippi as I'm scrolling. Unfortunately, I haven't seen many places in Mississippi. Thomas Lee says, hail. Johnny says, glad the videos are working. They're working fantastically. Well done. And we will be doing a lot more. All right, let's see if everything's working okay over here. How's everybody doing tonight? I see Sean on, Jennifer P. Divine something dragon went by. Einzwei greets from Germany. Seth is here. Oh, you know what I got to do? I have to start up Entropy so that you all can join us over there. Those of you who want to join over on Entropy. I'll do that right now. All right, you should be able to see Entropy if you want to join over on Entropy. And I will remind everyone, this will be a first time for those who are here for the first time, that if you want to ask me a question or make a statement, you can do so in either live chat, gardening or no white guilt. If you want to up the chances that I will see it, then tag me on the gardening channel. It's gardening with NWG. On the No White Guilt channel, it's just No White Guilt. And if you want to make certain that your question will be read or statement read, then you can super chat. You can do that on YouTube at 33%. You can do it on Cash App, and that is 6%. You can do it on Ko-fi at 15%, on Entropy at 15% as well. Or you could look down into the description for the familiar alternative at 6%. So those are your options. Let me see. And I think we just had a super chat. There's the great Mrs. Horst. Great to see you. We have Swayed Off the Cuff, $10 over here on YouTube. Thank you so much for that kind super chat. $10 will be put between the harm anti-whites would like to inflict on our children and our beautiful babies. And writing, this is kind of insane, but we need to fight. Use any search engine. Look up Skyrim. The Chinese can only build walls, but we built too many roads and didn't help ourselves. Well, that's true. The Chinese are not compromised by anti-Chinese. We are compromised by anti-whites. And that is what we are going free of here, my good friends. Stick with us. You can be a part of this rapidly growing community, and we will be the people who pass through the needle's eye on the other side, reclaiming our destiny for ourselves and our children and grandchildren. Tipsy McStagger is here. A guy overheard me talking about white well-being at the pub on Saturday night. He walked up to me and said, "I like what you're saying," but left so fast, I didn't even catch his name. Well, thank you for sharing that testimonial, brother. That is fantastic. That is great news. I have had that myself. I've been in conversations, and this is an unfortunate reality when you're talking with so many vagues out there, trying to bring them over to white well-being. And I'll be talking, I won't necessarily be lowering my volume of speech. That is so telling too, that when we are heretics to anti-whiteism, when we're not anti-white enough and we're out in public, if the anti-white narrative were true, if the West was controlled by white people for the benefit of white people, we would be able to say as loudly as possible in a restaurant, any public venue, that we were serving white well-being. It would just be taken for granted. And anybody who would object, they would be the ones who would be ostracized from society, hauled before tribunals. That's not what happens. No, we so often, especially when I worked on the Hill, how pathetic was it that working in the nerve center for the conservative movement, and we would go out, lunch somewhere, what have you, and we having a normal conversation, and then as soon as we wanted to talk about something conservative, suddenly we were whispering and eyes darting side to side. That tells you everything you need to know about reality. This is the evidence that the anti-whites know without a doubt that they are in charge, because they know that we can't speak up. They know that we are victimized when we speak or act heretically, when we're not anti-white enough. So when they tell you, like I saw some wonderful person, thank you very much, sent me a news clip where somebody had put up a sign over a bridge or a sheet, and it said it's okay to be white. And this anti-white bastard stopped his car. Perhaps he drove up, but got out of his car and tore the sign down. And he said, well, it's terrible because if you're a white person, you are in a position of privilege. And this gives the impression that white people are not in a position of privilege. Well, first of all, jackass, maybe I should pull that up. If somebody has that clip, I guess I can't play it, but because they would censor my channel into oblivion. But first of all, you have these white people out there, and I don't know if this guy was absolutely white. I only had a second to see it, but you have these white people who are privileged, and they're all anti-white. Every last one of them. Because if any of these privileged white people who work in the anti-white regime, if any of them say anything white positive, they are outed and fired and thrown out of the regime. They are not able to work again. So none of them are going to give that up. So I don't doubt that this guy probably got out of his $100,000 car to go tear down that sign saying that, well, white people are privileged. That, you know, he had everything handed to him on a silver platter so that he could be anti-white. Never mind the fact that there are scores and scores and scores of millions within miles, within a couple hundred miles of where this jackass anti-white lives, that are hand to mouth, that didn't have a silver spoon stuck in their face when they were born, that aren't part of the anti-white regime. What an idiot. Cannot see beyond the end of his nose. Talking about how privileged whites are. You see this a lot with anti-white, white, wealthy people, is they try to justify their wealth by attacking our people. They try to say it's legitimate for me to be wealthy because I do everything I can to harm Western kind. And that's what this guy immediately reminded me of. But on top of that, it's worse. On top of that, it's much worse because he knows very well that he could go to a restaurant and say at the top of his lungs to the people sitting there with him that he is anti-white, that X, Y, and Z needs to happen across Western civilization that will harm Western kind, that will harm Western civilization, that we need white erasure. He knows he can say that and not a damn thing will happen to him. And he also knows that if somebody goes into that restaurant and speaks up and says that they are concerned about our people, that they don't like our children not being given a choice of mates, that it's always a non-white mate is going to be fun, is going to be fit, is going to be superior, and the white mate is always going to be ugly and awkward and broken. There's no choice there to be made when you tell children that. If I were in that restaurant and saying that, this anti-white slug knows that there would be diners in there who would condemn me for it, anti-whites. Perhaps even the restaurant owner would ask me to leave. He knows, that anti-white slug, that if he could follow me out and follow me to my employer, that he could go to my employer and complain, potentially get me fired. So these anti-whites, they know very well what is going on in the real world. Don't let them lie for a minute to you and say otherwise. Don't let, when they say that white people control Western civilization for their own enrichment and benefit, do not allow them that lie. Don't say to yourself, well, maybe they do actually think that. They don't believe that. Good God. They can walk out into the world and see the same thing that you see. They see just as you saw and see all the time at school, at work, that when somebody says something that's heretical to anti-whiteism, they are dragged before the anti-white tribunals and that they are punished for it. They're victimized for it. That there's a social lynching. There aren't any social lynchings for people who are anti-white. So anyhow, Tipsy McStagger's point, I've had happen to me as well. I've been talking to folks and speaking at normal speech. You didn't think I'd be able to make it back to the original point, did you? Speaking at normal speech, and people come up and say, man, I really agree with that. That really makes sense. You're talking a lot of sense, brother, or whatever it is. And then I just don't get an opportunity to speak more with them. I don't get an opportunity. I try very often. If I have cards on me, they get my card, whatever it is. I'll jot something down for them if there's an opportunity. And that is a suggestion to all of you. If somebody ever hears you talking and they come up to say, that makes a lot of sense, I like what you're saying, good on you, that you need to do everything you can to get them some information. One of the easiest things you can possibly do is maybe shake their hand and hold it long enough to say nowhiteguilt.org. nowhiteguilt.org. They will remember that. If they can't remember those 3 words, .org, then they have deeper problems than just you not being able to communicate those 3 words to them in a way that they can remember. So do that next time. That's one of the things that I do. And if you get them to my website, they'll be able to find the thread all the way back to all of our Going Free episodes. They'll be able to join us here. It'll be a fantastic thing. Thank you so much, Tipsy, for talking about white well-being at the pub and creating that environment in which a person could come up to you. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, yes, don't go out someplace where you're going to be in danger of anti-whites who are going to want to attack you physically, break your head open because you're not anti-white enough, because you're a heretic. Don't risk yourself that way. But if you are in a civil environment and you can speak your mind, and there's not going to be no one's going to be following you home or whatever from this environment, speak your mind. The hour is too late. Don't allow, we have all of these holidays coming up, and I'm going to get to the things you're saying, and I'll get to this stuff right away, because Poseidon is going to keep me honest, keep us all honest tonight. I think he starts at 8 or 8:30. Could somebody find out for me when Poseidon is getting rolling? We don't want to run over into his show. And I'll get to all of your fabulous super chats. How exciting these times are, ladies and gentlemen. It's unbelievable. Actually, maybe I should just do that. I should just do that now. Get to what you all are, and then if we have time, we'll come back, because I know Poseidon is streaming tonight. But thank you all who, if you're in public and you can talk about these sorts of things, do so. If you go to these family get-togethers, these coming holidays, and you do not take the opportunity, depending on where these family members are on the spectrum, friends or family members that you meet up with, if you do not try to feed them some truth, you have failed. If you do not try to lead them in this direction, you have failed. Because odds are, now you might run into the family member that's still viciously anti-white and just crazed. Nothing's going to help them. But odds are a lower percentage of your family now than last year, and a lower percentage there than the year before, and it will continue moving this direction, are going to be so anti-white, they're going to recoil at you talking about white well-being. Because the environment is getting richer for us by the day. So odds are you're going to be amongst family members where you can say, this is not good for our people. I mean, our people, white people, Western kind. This is ruining our civilization. Isn't that a problem? You know, even with the most rabidly anti-whites, I would let that fly. Just let them wallow in all of the excuses of, no, why it's a good thing that every place should look like downtown LA. Every place should look like Detroit. Every place should look like Tijuana. You know, every place should look like Lebanon. Every place should look like all of these places where those anti-white family members don't want to live, where those friends and family members don't want to be. Don't miss this opportunity. And I've said it before, this is where the heroes fight the battles, is at these family functions, where it takes courage to stand up and say, look, here's the truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat it or baby you anymore with lies, and I'm not going to fear you anymore because you're going to act offended, because you're going to act like the world has fallen apart if I say we need to care about white people. Don't fear them anymore. You make them fear your reaction to their anti-white statements. Yeah, and if you have an anti-white family member, and we'll talk more about this as we get close with specific cases of what people might be saying, and we'll go through some of the MCs and Go Free. We could talk about those and their use at these family functions. But if you have an anti-white family member that you know is likely going to say X at the coming get-together, be ready for it. And as soon as they say it, be as offended as they would have been. if you had said something white positive. Do not tight-lipped turn your head away and just shake your head. There's no more time for that. So sorry, I'm not sorry that I'm going to compel you to be a hero. This is what I expect and demand of myself, and I'm going to expect and demand that of the best members of our community. That is all of you. Let's see what we have here. I do want to say, I guess right along those lines, a thank you to those people calling themselves, it's quite an ugly name, but groypers. A thank you to all of you for posing those difficult questions for these anti-white, cuck-servative scumbags. Thank you very much. And I cheer you on. I laud you. Do more of this. Wherever they show up and they're trying to mislead our people, these anti-white cuck-servatives, get in there and ask them the hardest questions possible. Humiliate them. Make them look imbecilic. Mock them. Ridicule them. Put their faces on memes. And just absolutely in all ways conceivable, burn them down with irreverence. Make fools of these people. This I salute of these people who call themselves groypers. These anti-white conservatives have been a false flag for a great many decades now. A great many decades. Now there have been some honest people in there, but it's self-selecting. They don't stay. I didn't stay. When I saw that there was no hope in that entire being right at the nerve center, it wasn't like I was orbiting somewhere out in the periphery and I was just wondering, looking in through the windows. Is there any hope? Maybe there's hope and I just can't see it from where I am. No, there's no hope. They are thieves. They are liars. They are deceivers. They are every bit as anti-white as anti-whites who call themselves progressives or whatever other name, cherubs, little baby cherub anti-whites. I mean, whatever they want to call themselves. And we know here we don't call them by the names that they take. We call them by the names we give them because this is our story, not theirs. So there's no hope in the anti-white cuck-servative movement. And it is time that this false flag leadership is burnt to the ground, metaphorically, with ridicule, so that all of these good American people, white Americans, and even some non-white Americans who are being misled by these anti-white conservatives can finally get an opportunity to hear some truth. They can finally come over to White Wellbeing and make a difference in the world, rather than just being another player in the grand, disastrous, dystopian play of Western civilization dominated by anti-whites. Jason writes, I never lower my voice when proclaiming the truth for White Wellbeing in any setting, no matter what. I'm a bit behind in the stream, by the way. How are my beautiful, wise white brothers and sisters? Well, thank you very much. A big salute to you, brother, for not being afraid. Be wise, though. Be wise. I absolutely am not encouraging anybody to go into a dangerous environment. One can imagine going into an area, a part of town that has been taken over by non-white people, where they feel numerical courage, where they are projecting their biospirits onto that environment. And let me tell you, if you go into those environments and you are saying anything in service of white well-being, they will have no problem confronting you and forcing you out and who knows what else. But the more important thing is that not only would that be dangerous for you physically, but there's no point. The only reason for us to talk about white well-being is to bring others into the community, to help them go free of anti-whiteism. You're not going to be doing that in the dangerous non-white part of town. They're not going to be any white people that we can save there. So let's see, what else do we have here? The off-the-cuff person says something, that sheet what said, I don't understand. Is English, try to put it through a couple translators and see if you can We'll try again. Dig Two Graves, $4.99. Where were you on Halloween? I mean, that with a name like that. If I complete No Nut November. I'm guessing that has nothing to do with staying away from peanuts. Will I reach the 4th degree of going free? Well, the fourth, it's not available yet. How to move forward beyond the 3 levels that we discuss in the book Go Free, but maybe you would like to pioneer a new path. Let us know how it works out for you. Polygon, $4.99. Thank you so much. I'm enjoying the 2nd edition. Fantastic. Glad to hear that you've purchased it and that you're reading it. Thank you for writing such a fine book for our folks. Well, you are most welcome, and a big thank you to everyone who helped with the work in that fine 2nd edition that is out now and available. If you are working through it, ladies and gentlemen, please share with us your testimonials about how it's coming. How are you doing? Have you had any insights? Have you tried anything out? Are you sharing it with friends or family? Harbinger asks about Syrup. Did Syrup leave the community? No, Syrup has been actually just started coming back again. He's had some other things going on in his life, and he is still with us. Still with us. But you will be seeing more of him in the coming weeks and months. Not sure how to pronounce. I can't even make out exactly what a couple of the letters are in your name. Is that a T? Is it Madrowski? Is the last name? I think the overall message is you'd enjoy Skyrim, which, to be fair, has some good messages on race. Okay. I'll check it out. Then I'll have somebody who knows the game share with me. I actually can't look at video games, ladies and gentlemen. The 3-dimensional effect makes me sick, which is a good thing, I guess, because when all of the other little boys were playing these games, I was learning and thinking. Amygdala, good to see you. But all things in moderation, of course. If you can game and still get an education and think for yourself, then more power to you. Let's see, what do we have here? Sliding through the chat. Honorian, the guy who pulled down, and this is the banner I was talking about that said it's okay to be white. The guy who pulled it down should be shown the white South African children in squatter camps. Tons of privilege there. No, see, the thing is, and this is true, but he still would not say that white people are not privileged. This is the thing about anti-whites. It is a faith. So reality contradicting it actually bolsters their faith. It actually makes them cling even more strongly to their faith. Think about every religious cult or space alien cult. Reality hitting them in the face makes them only cling more tightly to their ideology. So that, unfortunately, they would see it. They would know that that is actual reality, that maybe he was born with the silver spoon, but there are far more white people that are suffering, and maybe he still hasn't, maybe his level in the regime has not yet been undermined and is being replaced by non-white peoples. But all of ours, it was in our lifetimes where you had a lot of the white collar people who just didn't care that so many of the blue collar jobs that white people held, sheetrocking, shingling, all of these sorts of things, plumbing, all of it was just, they didn't care that these people were being put out of house and home because they were in competition with folks who would work for nothing. They didn't care because it wasn't them and their families. That was the wrong thing to think. That was the wrong way to behave. That's why we're so weak as a people. And it's born largely out of this hyper individualism. As long as it's not what's happening to me. So this guy, where he is in the ranking might not be under threat yet, but it will be soon. Now, what he should have to do is he and his family should have to go live in one of these enriched areas in the US or Germany or South Africa or wherever. They should have to go live in an enriched area and see how privileged they are when they have to live amongst the enrichment. I can assure you they would be gang enriched. Takar says, Jason is one of the best of us. Thank you for your great spiritual leadership. Well, thank you for those very kind words. And if what I do can help bring more people to white well-being, then every single one of those individuals is, for me, an absolute, I was going to say an amount of money. I was going to say like worth millions, but it's beyond wealth, because it's beyond cash. It's, who knows what that person could end up doing? Someone that you talk to, who knows where that could end up landing? The next head of X, Y, or Z, the next head of NASA, the next head of the FBI, the person who pulls down the anti-white regime himself. Who knows where it ends up going? You never know what role you're going to end up playing. It is often the smallest of us who have the biggest impact. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. Don't ever think that the amount of money you have or the amount of intelligence you think you is innate for your abilities, your looks, your athletic ability. Don't ever think that any of that can prevent you from having a major effect for our well-being. Because if you think it will, then it will. But if you put your mind on overcoming those challenges that are in front of you, and remember, every one of those challenges, even the regular life challenges that we have to deal with, all of us, every single one of those is just something between you and doing good for our people, which is where you will derive the greatest pleasure. And so you can use that energy that you have to ignite a renewed passion to overcome those challenges that are out there ahead of you, move beyond them, and then get to the part of the process where you can serve white well-being, have the biggest effect that you can, and never for 1 second doubt yourself or underestimate your abilities. Thank you very much for that, Takar. Rick, writing, or is it Simon, saying it's common sense, but common sense isn't common nowadays. Well, common sense has been ousted by the anti-white narrative, a purely fictional story, absolute nonsense. And everybody knows it to be the case. We should talk about it that way as well, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody knows that the anti-white narrative is fake. Everybody knows that in the anti-white narrative, anti-Semitism is always on the rise. It has always been on the rise. It will always be on the rise. In the anti-white narrative, racism is always on the rise. It has always been on the rise, and it will always be on the rise, because that's the story. That is the story. That's not reality. Talk about it this way and make those around you who indulge the story as reality look like fools. Outrageously Unoffensive writes, Groypers sounds like a nationalist movement focused on seafood. Watch Rider says, checking in. Sorry, I'm late. If the Groypers run on seafood, I will buy them all some shrimp. I'm delighted with them taking down the anti-white conservatives. Teddy News says, hi, everyone. Hello back. Question Everything says he has a super chat that he sent, and I see it, my good friend. We are absolutely going to read your super chat in just a moment. Let me get these other screens loading up. Did we find out when Poseidon is going live yet? If somebody said, I haven't seen myself tagged. Madrowski, I deeply apologize for what is inevitably the mispronunciation of your last name. But super chatting $5. Thank you so much for that and writing. I don't really have anything pithy to say. Just take this currency and do something white with it. Well, that I can guarantee, my good friend, that I can absolutely guarantee. If there's anything that I can do with currency, is I can make it go far. I can make it work. Mrs. Horst, super chatting $14.99. Thank you so much. In fact, I'll say this. My ability to make a dollar go far and effectively, to make it work more than what other people can do with a dollar, is kind of my reputation. It's kind of what I have done really well, among a couple other things. I'm lousy at a lot of things, good at a couple things, but so that's that you can be guaranteed of. Mrs. Horst, $14.99. Thank you, my dear friend, a great participant in our community for White Wellbeing. I came home in elementary and told my father that they called me prejudiced, racist, anti-white slurs. Yes, indeed. My father said, "We are not prejudiced, we are separatist." I delight in more vocabulary for white well-being. Amen to that, Mrs. Horst. Amen. We are advocates for white well-being. And if somebody says this to your children, use these anti-white slurs, I know that you will respond with, "How dare you use anti-white slurs on my family? How dare you use that anti-white garbage on my family?" We are advocates for white well-being. You say that, and then take a look at their faces and come back and tell me how it landed, because it lands beautifully. When you are furious for them, for an anti-white using an anti-white slur, they are so taken out of their element, it's worse than a fish out of water. They absolutely stutter and drool and spit all over themselves. They have no idea what to do. Question everything, $5. Jason, I needed to hear your message earlier. An anti-white in-law called me racist and anti-white slur for criticizing Obama. These people are insane. Indeed. Question everything. Well, I'm sorry I couldn't have been on earlier. Be ready, be prepared. Next time that anti-white relative says an anti-white slur, you know what to say now. You know how to respond to that. Ask them, why are you so deranged that you would use anti-white slurs? Say to them, no Jewish person is going to use an anti-Jewish slur. I know they like anti-Semitic, but no Jewish person is going to use an anti-Jewish slur with their relatives. No black person is going to be sitting in their living room with their family and use an anti-black slur when the exact same scenario is taking place and everything is reversed. So why are you the oddball out? Why are you so screwed up in the head? Say that to your relatives and they will come unhinged. I know, but you'll just watch. Come back to me, share with me what they say. You will love it. Jade Lee says, looking snazzy tonight, Jason. Well, thank you very much. The chat here must be jumping around for me. Porsche Girl writes, no white guilt. You are awesome, bro. Well, thank you so much. I don't know if I guess it depends on what category we're talking about. But thank you nonetheless. That's very kind of you. Let me get a drink myself so that I'm not having spit fly out of my mouth. DJ says 1.5 hours time Poseidon starts. Thank you very much for that, DJ. So how long ago was that, though? Does he start at 8 o'clock then? Is that it? Off the Cuff says, in North Georgia, they are sick and brainwashed ex-Marines. Beware, Legion group. I don't know what that is. I'll keep it in mind, though. I've never heard that name before. As he went to walk away, this is Tipsy McStagger, ladies and gentlemen, I shook his hand and gave him a hug and told him, there's more of us than you realize. Well, good for you. Good for you. That's the right way to handle it. All right, let's see. We did have, I didn't want to miss either, because we had a super chat. I think it was Marcus Cicero the other day. Yes, it was. Super chatted, and it was late, right? It was after the stream, so this one might have been it. $27 over on Ko-fi. Thank you, Marcus. Tried to make your stream today. Had to help my wife at work. Next time. I think that was the one that came in late. Thank you very much for that, Marcus. And then you had another one, which I must have read. Super chatting $27 as well. Hi, Jason. The AAP method is still very new to me, especially in dialogue with normies and anti-whites. Could you maybe do some case studies on how to respond to MPs from others, but in a non-defensive way? Yeah, we did read this the other day. Maybe do an NWG dialects clinic or educational skits. Yes, thank you for the super chat again. Most kind of you, a good friend, and we are going to be talking about that in the coming Going Free streams. Right, we're taking it right out of the Go Free book and answering, hopefully, questions and scenarios that you all have been confronted with. So let's see. Marcus again today, my good friend, $27 over on Ko-fi. No, it wasn't today. This was yes, and I read this one too. Received second edition of Go Free today, 100 more pages. Even at a glance, I see what I was hoping for, more examples of MPs and MCs. So ended up working out, we see, from one super chat to the next. Thank you, Marcus. And we are still going to be doing those clinics. We do have today the teachings of Bigot, $3 over on Ko-fi. Thank you so much. Greetings, good folk. Well, greetings back at you. Thank you very much for those $3. And we will absolutely put them to good use over here on Cash App. We have, it's loading. Oh, here it is. We just had Ryan come in with a $5 super chat. Didn't write anything, but as we like to say here on Going Free, saying a lot with those $5 to the anti-whites who are watching. You know they are. Remember when we had the anti-whites, we ended up raising money with cross eyes on the right and ended up raising so much money for White Wellbeing and then went away. I wonder why. We also have, get your applauding emojis ready, ladies and gentlemen. Get your raucous emojis ready. Joseph, super chatting $100. Thank you so much, my dear friend. 100 white baby saving dollars from Joseph, writing, this is deep wisdom. Understand. Time to go free. Very well written, brother. Thank you so much for that kind super chat and those proud and courageous words. It is indeed time to go free. Thank you for standing up at the front of the group and professing that you have the courage to move forward for our people. Let's see. Okay, that's it there. And we're going to get into this. I'm going to read the super chats we have over here and questions, make sure we didn't miss any. And we are going to really quickly, though, I guess I'll check because we have Poseidon and his wonderful party is coming up. I know he doesn't, when he gets started, he doesn't start talking right away. So we've got a little bit of time into the beginning. Looks like outrageously inoffensive over here on gardening. Says 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Poseidon. 7:30, okay. So we have a little bit of a cushion when he starts. He doesn't start talking right away. Thank you very much for that, good sir. Oh, so many rising stars in the community. We've got, I'll show you a picture that I'll show tonight of myself a couple years ago at the Gold Cup out in the Plains, Virginia. And if you have purchased my book, Born Guilty, if you've acquired the book, you will have read the story Crucible. And there I talk about my time in junior high school. And as I'm talking to you about Crucible and Prometheus Rising is the other book that's inside of Born Guilty, and mythopoetic story about the creation of our people, and tracks a narrative arc from the beginning of time to the present. We hold conversations. You stay with me, and we are staying out in my apartment in the Plains, Virginia, on the property of a wealthy white person that I was renting from, I was leasing from. And just a stone's throw from that place is where they hold the Gold Cup. The wealthy people get out there and they play their games, they race their horses. And so it was, I attended Gold Cup a couple times, and it was a fantastic time. I will share one of those photographs with you all before it is shown anywhere else. I had decided it was going to go up on Instagram, but I will be sharing all of those things with you all before they show up anywhere. Harbinger Skullgrim, a liberal tuber with more than 1 million subscribers, is streaming right now and only has 400 people watching. You've got proportionally a more loyal, well, I'm not, absolutely these people are not fans, but fan base, because your message is true. 100%. We in Going Free are the best of the entire white positive sphere. The white positive sphere is the best of all of Western civilization. So we are the creme de la creme. You know, we are the absolute best. We are participants. We are going out and making things happen. I would much rather have by my side one loyal, active, strong man or woman, strong, mentally, man or woman, to work with me for white well-being, going free, going out there and trying to bring other people to the cause of going free, saving themselves, saving their friends and family. I would rather have one person like that than 100 of the average type of people in the white positive sphere that show up to many of the other streams. And certainly I'd rather have that one person than the thousands of average white people that will show up to streams that watch about makeup tutorials, or even worse, what I think is even worse, these channels where they talk about some gossip that took place at some office about totally irrelevant and unimportant people that it just could not be more meaningless. Those people are useless nothings, and they will not be the ones who pass through the eye of the needle. Rest assured. It is going to be the good people like us, the ones who are doing the hard work, the ones who have the spirit to hear the silver trumpets calling us to the defense of our people. So let's see. Let's go ahead. And I want to quickly say that I wanted to share with you all an observation, and I want you all to keep your eyes open for this because it's happening increasingly. I watch very little television, very little news. In fact, I watch no television, really. I will turn on the TV, so there's like movement as I'm making food or what have you. But I noticed that on the different news channels, and specifically happening with Fox, that increasingly the talking head that is there, that is supposed to represent the anti-white conservative, is and therefore conservative ideals or patriotic ideals, is increasingly non-white people. Those are the people that they are bringing on, increasingly non-white. And the person that is brought on to represent the left anti-whites, the progressive anti-whites, that person is increasingly a blonde white person, or merely a white person. But increasingly, I'm noticing that they're putting non-white people out there as the moral paragons for all of the scores of millions of whites. And this might be happening in other Western countries as well. If it's happening in your country, chime in the live chat or in the thread if you are watching in replay. But it's definitely happening here. So keep your eyes open. There has been a decision made that they are going to present to these white masses. And perhaps this is a way that the anti-white elites have concluded to continue to vector the white population in a destructive direction, to keep them from heeding the message from people like me and all of you good folks out there, is to put non-white people out in front of them so that they come to the conclusion that speaking the conservative values on the big shining lights, neon light lit up, fireworks going off in the background stages, that these people, if it's not a non-white face that's telling you it's illegitimate. It's only a legitimate conservative concern if it is an Asian face, if it is a black face, if it is a Jewish face, if it is some face other than white people. And indeed, if it's going to be a white person, all of you nationalistic whites out there, all of you patriotic whites out there, all of you conservative whites out there, if you're going to see a white person out in the public talking about sociopolitical ideas or directions or concerns, if it's a white person, then it's going to be a progressive. It's going to be someone who wants to destroy your country. So you should automatically feel this disgust for them just upon seeing them. So keep your eye out for that. This is the exact kind of psychological warfare that has been played on us, that has been inflicted on us for decade after decade. And it's such a small thing. And that is what makes it so powerful. They're not going to be able to get out there and say, and they've discovered this a long time ago, and say, think this way, don't think that way, and have that work. That's what they're starting to do now with the purity spiraling and anti-whiteism, and that's a good thing. We'll be talking about that in a moment. But it's these smaller things that have the bigger effect. Think about all of these soccer moms, all these white soccer moms, all these white gymnast moms, running their children from here to there, and they're turning on their conservative news station, or they're turning on their anti-white, or what they believe is a conservative news, the anti-white conservative Fox News. They're turning on one of the more blatantly anti-white news stations like MSNBC or something like this nature, and they're looking for their conservative leader who's going to say some positive things about the ideas that they hold themselves. They're going to say, well, we should be enforcing the border. And when they do that, they're going to be looking at a non-white face. And that's who they're going to come to identify with. So that when somebody like me with bright eyes gets in front of them, it's going to mean, oh, it's got to be something doesn't feel right about them. Every time I see them on TV, it's something I'm disgusted with when it's sociopolitical issues. So keep your eye open for that. That is, as I say, the sort of psychological warfare that has the biggest effect on our people. I also want to talk about something that's really important. I've mentioned it a few times, and that is what I refer to as the glitch in our thinking. There's a glitch. There's an element of thinking that misfires, malfunctions for so many people that perhaps when we recover our destiny, we will go into what exactly this is. We will actually dig into and try to find out, how does this happen? But nonetheless, there is this glitch, and I have named it. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. It's a Latin phrase, the guy who said it. But the Latin phrase is credo qui absurdum. I believe because it is absurd. Now, how many times have you spoken with someone, irrespective, of their political background, sociopolitical background, and they shared with you a story about anything? It could be science, it could be nature, it could be anything. And they blend two thoughts together that are absolutely incongruous, that don't go together at all. But they think that because the obviousness of how they don't go together, how there obviously isn't a cause and effect here, that it therefore must be true. How many times, if you're honest with yourself and you've been observing human nature, you'll say, Jesus, that's happened a lot. Credo qui absurdum. It's this broken switch in people's heads, and the anti-whites make use of it in a big way. Can any of you think about some of the MPs that we've talked about before, or some MPs maybe that come to mind that make use of this glitch? Something that is obviously wrong, and so therefore people think it must be right. It's obviously wrong, so it must be right. Credo qui absurdum. Does anybody have any ideas? I know you all are a couple seconds behind me. Great to see so many heroic people. And like I said, if you're new to this, God bless you. Thank you for being here. Feel comfortable to join us, to speak up or just to listen in. Simon says they are eventually addressing Muslim voter fraud in the upcoming UK general election. Well, keep your eye on how the shell game there. Let us know. If I hear anything about it, I'll fill you all in. I'm just checking through. Rachel said, true, Jason, to something I said. I'm glad it resonated with you. All right, so a great example of something that is obviously not true, and therefore people think it's true, is that the West is wealthy because it had slavery. Well, that is obviously not true. Every country had slavery. Every race of people has practiced slavery. In fact, all of the other races practiced slavery for longer than the white race. Now, that may or may not be true because the anti-whites are listening at YouTube, and we want to stay on the platform. So you have to go look it up for yourself. But all of humanity practiced slavery from the beginning of time. And then the white race decided that they were going to put an end to it. And we put an end to it around the world. Are we lauded for that? Are we thanked? We are blamed for slavery. But the important point here is that if slavery made a country or a people wealthy, all peoples would be as rich spiritually, economically, architecturally, etc., as the West. They're not. Slavery has nothing to do with it. So it is obviously something that is false. And so therefore, because of some people who seem to have this broken wire in their heads, it must be true. How about this one? I hear this one in business occasionally. Multiracial companies do better than monoracial companies. I was at a business luncheon, and I heard this said, multiracial companies do better than monoracial companies, by an individual who later in that conversation talked about how the monoracial companies of Japan and China were outdoing all of the rest of the companies in the world. The same person. So the glitch, the wire is snapped. Something is wrong in their heads. Credo qui absurdum. How about this one? The only difference between the races is skin color. It is obviously not true, and so therefore it must be right. So we need to be aware of this glitch when we're talking with our people. You probably will not ever have to bring it up. You can, but it should inform your understanding of where some people are. If, like, I had a person one time tell me that I was helping to go free very early on in the process. He told me that shoes that were being, that I think African and by African, I mean Black Africans, had made were the best running shoes in the world. And it was in like some tribe somewhere, you know. So don't even think that it was a big building with machinery, and it was a tribe somewhere, and they were making these shoes, and they said, these are the best shoes for running in the world. And I said, well, how do you know that? It's obviously wrong. So how do you know that? Well, because these people run everywhere they go. Perfect example of credo qui absurdum. No, these multi-billion-dollar companies that have laboratories and testing facilities, R&D facilities on several continents that research, measure, sculpt, mold, analyze all of the different human feet, the entire mechanics of the human skeleton, that these people who are making shoes for running composed of materials that are light years advanced of the leather that you can strip off of a wild animal and tan and sew together with ragweed or whatever it is, that somehow these people are not making the best shoes for running. Somehow the people in the tribe out in the bush are making the best shoes for running. Obvious example. And by the way, this person was sane otherwise. I mean, he knew how to put his shoes on to continue on the shoe metaphor, or the actual story theme, I should say, the shoe theme. The final one I'll leave you with when it comes to, and this is a perfect example of credo qui absurdum. And if you want to just have one sentence that encapsulates it, it's this: scarcity is an evolved form of abundance. Scarcity is an evolved form of abundance. Perfect example of something that is patently, obviously false, and therefore it is true. The glitch that we're talking about here. Let this inform your understanding of your brothers and sisters out there when you go out and you're trying to change your strangers, you're trying to change their mind, you're trying to redeem them and bring them over so that they can go free of anti-whiteism. Know that some of them will be suffering from this glitch in the human brain on some of these topics. They're going to be thinking it's obviously false, so therefore it must be true. And in some cases, you want to point it out to them. Just saying to them, as I've done, look, when something's obviously false, it doesn't make it true. Saying that to them is kind of a moment of like throwing cold water on their face. So be sure to use that if it is applicable. So we got some, I want to read to you all some, let me show you, why don't we do this? I will go ahead and show you this picture of me. I will share with you all the picture of me at Gold Cup. And you all can tell me what you think of the hat. That it's kind of the hat's de rigueur. So there I am at Gold Cup. So as you can imagine, they have a little dog race. It's a little Jack Russell Terrier race, and that's a splendid little event. It takes place before the actual horse races. It happens twice a year, Gold Cup, and spring and autumn. You can see that this was the autumn. The little Jack Russell Terriers race. They have little hurdles of their own they have to leap over. They're splendid little dogs. Everybody has a good laugh while we watch them run around their little track. It's off to, if you're looking at the picture to the right, it'd be my left of me inside the picture. And then, of course, beyond me is the race track for the horses, the horse track. And, of course, as you can imagine, there are private areas where the wealthy can go and tip their champagne and that sort of thing. But that was Gold Cup. A few years ago, wanted to share that with you all. I had the opportunity to speak there with and on the property that I lived on with very wealthy individuals, white people, very wealthy white people who are just concerned with nothing more than the next play or the next polo match or the next restaurant opening. That's what their conversations consist of, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know, it is as trivial as you can possibly imagine, trifling. And I had a conversation with a wealthy gentleman. He was talking about the non-white labor coming into some other town, and the town was becoming dangerous for one of his friends. They were saying that, well, there had never been a robbery or anything of this nature, and now there were robberies. And I said, you don't say. And yes, and he went on, and can you believe that this and that? And you don't say. And I said, well, what is your friend going to do? It's a very extremely wealthy white woman, and I think she's a widow. Well, she's going to build a very high fence around her property. And I said, okay, well, I failed to mention, she was one of the employers bringing these people into the area, ladies and gentlemen. And she was complaining that the area has now become crime-ridden, now changing. And I'm sure it had nothing to do with the doctors and engineers that she had brought in to employ, and her and some of the others, but she was one of the main movers. And so now she was going to build a wall. So he said, the guy I was talking with, he said, well, I hope that doesn't happen here where he lives. And I said, well, what if it does? And he said, he will build a wall. So I got a little agitated at that time. I said, well, his name, I don't have enough money to build a wall around where I live. And everybody in that town that is being ruined by your friend, they don't have the money to build walls around their castles like your friend has. So isn't that a bit immoral of her and you? If you're going to create a context that is going to make the environment dangerous for you, so dangerous that you have to build a wall around your home, isn't it immoral to subject all of the other people who live there, the white people, who can't afford a wall around their houses? Isn't it immoral to subject them to that environment? And he looked at me as though I had 7 heads. He couldn't believe that I would have the effrontery to say to him that isn't it immoral to ruin your environment and then save your own ass? He wandered away after those comments. He had no response. And I think he knew that I was absolutely intransigent. I wasn't going to allow him to talk his way out of that. The only answer to that in my presence was going to be, then I won't hire those people. I will pay more for the people who already live here. I will pay them what they deserve for the labor that they are providing, rather than half enslave non-white people and pay them less than they deserve for that job, bringing them into this area, creating a different bio-spiritual context for the white people who live here, who then can't find work and who then can't escape from the environment that is brought in by the doctors, lawyers, engineers, brain surgeons, rocket scientists. So that was one of the conversations that took place. Otherwise, it is a lovely opportunity to see magnificent, truly magnificent animals race around the horse track. They bring them out in the paddock, and you have, ladies and gentlemen, we have bred these horses into absolutely divine creatures. If you have not been up close and seen these animals, seen them in their prime, seen them working their magic, then you have truly a weaker soul than you would have otherwise had. Make sure you see that before you leave this world. It is truly something magical. It makes you wonder when you see one of these majestic beasts, whether or not a creator would look like that rather than like us. But that would be the only time I would doubt it. So let's see. We have some more super chats. So I want to get to those right now. I want to make sure we didn't miss anything, and we have some good comments I want to get through before the Great Poseidon gets started. Looking over here on Entropy, and I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody here. So I'm going to be checking both YouTube and Entropy on Entropy. Ladies and gentlemen, get your applauding emojis ready once again, please, because Marcus Cicero just outdoing himself time and again. What an absolutely courageous champion. Super chatting on Entropy, $88.88. And writing here, today I began using the second edition of Go Free to heal from anti-white MPs. It's bigger and better than the first edition and has way more healing CCD examples. Thanks, Jason. No, thank you, my good friend. Thank you both for your courage to go free, for your willingness to be here, for your willingness to participate by your comments, for your willingness to super chat so that you can, along with others, myself included, because it's my own money goes deeply and has always gone deeply into everything I do for White Wellbeing, provide this impetus to this community. Thank you, my good friend, my dear friend, Marcus. Another great super chat over here on Entropy. Did I read this earlier? Polygons, $4.99. I know I read something from. I'm enjoying the second edition. Thank you for writing such a fine book for our folks. Indeed, Polygon. Salute to you. Thank you for the super chat. We read Dig Two Grays, which should have been here on Halloween. Okay. We have all of those that I see here on Entropy. And what I'll do is I'll mix in some of these. I'm going to read one of the positive statements I have. You only have a couple this time to read to you all. And then we'll get to some of these super chats from good people within the community who, as I say, with their comments, with their super chats, are enabling us to do things to build community. And that's where we're going to get here in just a moment. The importance of it. We are on the path to success. Know this. Know this. We're going to be talking about it in just a minute. And if my voice goes during this, I will just whisper the rest of it. We'll make it through somehow. But Odin's son wrote this the other day, and I had to share with you all. He wrote here, this is truly magnificent. Writes, I quit smoking after 30 years after finding no white guilt and have begun eating better. You inspire people more than you know. Thank you, my dear brother. 30 years of smoking. He has given up now since he's going free, eating better as well. God bless you, Odin's son. And there's another one here that absolutely touched my heart. I have to tell you, Odin's son, when you shared this with me, it choked me up. So Odin's son wrote a comment, a follow-up comment to one he had written, and I read for you all, where the comment was about the stream before that, where we had talked about bottom-heavy women, and he wrote that he had married a bottom-heavy woman, and he said then that it's not always that he's been attracted to bottom-heavy women. I've dated all types of women. I've always been attracted to a good woman. My wife is amazing in everything she does, from being a good mother to an amazing wife. Not only is my wife amazing, she makes me want to be a better man and father. That's what we should be focusing on. Does this mate inspire us? Does this mate bring a fire to our soul that we never had before? I believe if we come this direction, we as Westerners would thrive. And that's what Odin's son wrote, and some of you will recall me reading that. He wrote a follow-up after I read it on a Going Free stream. This is what he wrote. By the way, okay, I'll get beyond that. He writes here, you just read my statement about my wonderful wife. I played it for her, and she cried. Thank you. Well, thank you, Odin's son. That is what a precious moment that was, and what wonderful people you both must be. I am so grateful that you found each other and that you are living in harmony. We all should have that in our lives. We would be a stronger people, far stronger people, far harder to undermine us and who we are and what we build, what we create, if we were more like the both of you. And thank you so much for sharing your testimonial that you are or have quit smoking after 30 years because you're now going free and even eating better. So I am inspired by you both, and I will work that much harder. That is how I feel when all of you, when you step forward and you share your successes. I am further inspired to work harder, to try harder, and that's exactly what we're doing. I push myself as hard as I possibly can so that I can ask the same of you all. So let's read a couple super chats, and then we will get into the final meat of this Going Free stream, so that we can be ready for our great friend Poseidon. We have Brant Danger super chatting $50, ladies and gentlemen. A great participant in this community here every week, every time we're going free, always commenting. Great to see you, brother. Thank you so much for that kind super chat. Writing, myself and other teachers had district-wide training last week. So think about this. Brant Danger is a teacher in the middle of that anti-white cesspool environment. We had district-wide training last week. We were told the low performance of the non-white students was due to intergenerational trauma caused by, who do you think? By whites. And we need to emulate their culture in school to make them comfortable. How disgusting, how predictable. Thank you for sharing. And ladies and gentlemen, if you work in any industry, just any industry where you have to undergo this sort of anti-white brainwashing, then chime in when it happens. Let us know what's going on. And that is, we want to hear these things because we want the firsthand testimonial so that the anti-whites won't be able to say, oh, people are just, when you say that that's happening, it's not really happening. No, people are going through this sort of thing. And I've heard this before. This is another meme pathogen. So this is a great example for everyone to learn from. Intergenerational trauma just what a powerful poison. The reason why other groups don't get along in your society, which is created by your biospirit, intended to harmonize with you, not with them. The reason why they don't do well there is not because that is not an environment that is not meant to harmonize with them. No, it's because white people at some point in the past traumatized them. They're non-white people at some point in the past, and that trauma has just followed them down through the ages. And so therefore, you, white person, should feel bad about it, and you should have to make amends. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You can spend your whole life making amends, and the children that you give birth to, and the children they give birth to, and the children they give birth to are still going to be held responsible and still be required to make amends, because that is just part of the anti-white narrative. It's just part of a story that doesn't end, that can't be remedied. Atonement cannot be made for a grievance never committed. Atonement cannot be made for a grievance never committed. You cannot atone. You cannot make it up to them. You cannot make them feel better. They will not feel, they will feel out of place in Western civilization because it is a reflection of our biospirit. If we change it, or we allow them to change our civilization to harmonize with them, it doesn't feel comfortable to us, and it won't feel comfortable to all of the other non-white groups who are present. This is how it works. This is what we've seen throughout all of recorded history. There is nothing we can do to make them feel comfortable other than disappear. And that is exactly what the anti-whites want. Thank you very much, Brant Danger, for sharing that example of the sort of victimization that our people are forced to endure in order to have a job. Rest assured, ladies and gentlemen, if Brant Danger had said, I'm not going to that anti-white trash, they would have just gotten rid of him. Now, nowadays it's so bad they could just say, well, you're a heretic, you're not anti-white enough, you're out of here. In the past, it used to be things like, well, your performance review is coming up, and even though you have outshined everybody else at your job, we're going to say you haven't done a very good job, and now you're fired for that. And that would have just been an excuse to get rid of you. Thank you very much for that, Brant Danger, sharing that and your super chat. And ladies and gentlemen, remember this intergenerational trauma meme pathogen. Remember, you can ask an anti-white, can we hold, oh, I don't know, name any non-white group you want. Every group of people has caused trauma on every other group. How about the trauma experienced by our parents who were fired from their jobs, who can't get hired, who can't get promotions, our very parents, not 5 generations ago, who are suffering under anti-whiteism. What about us, who are suffering under anti-whiteism, not something fictitious that can't be grabbed, that can't be held, that can't be measured, something purely imaginary. This is the death of reason in the West, are these unfalsifiable claims. And of course, all of anti-whiteism is built, it's constructed on unfalsifiable claims so that you cannot contend with it. White privilege, unfalsifiable claim. Touch it, show me it, measure it. Institutional racism, unfalsifiable claim. Measure it. Tell me how it functions. Find it for me. They can't. You just have to accept it as a precept of the faith. And if you don't, then you're a heretic and you can be victimized. Zero Talent, super chatting $2 by way of the familiar alternative as well. Thank you very much, Zero Talent. Always here. Great participant. Writing, great to be here with everyone. It's great to have you. I have tread carefully at work when talking with people, but I often frame things as a cultural difference. Well, if that keeps you employed and you are able to talk about things that way, if your interlocutor accepts that it is a cultural difference, then you can easily segue in a later conversation to culture is a projection of biospirit. The biospiritual manifestation of white people in aggregate is Western civilization, Western culture. That is why we see everywhere white people go, we build Western civilization. Everywhere blacks go, they build black civilization. Everywhere Asians go, they build Asian civilization. That is why you see people enclaving when they are amidst another racial group, and where they enclave, they recreate their biospirit. It's not something that you can put on and take off like clothing. So thank you very much for that, Zero Talent. And thank you for really just serving your self-interest there, not doing something self-destructive by trying to take somebody too far in too short of a time at work and losing your job. Because you really aggravate somebody, then they go to the boss, and they could even fabricate. If they are really anti-white, they will. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, seriously, get all of your raucous emojis having seizures, applauding, and a seizure in a way that they would come out of the seizure being healthier than they were when they went into the seizure. This is truly a magnificent a truly princely sum, an absolutely munificent super chat by Final Blossom. Just now, super chatting during this Going Free stream, $800. Super chatting $800, the princely sum, ladies and gentlemen, to the cause of white well-being. How far do you think I'm going to be able to make that go for our people, for the creation of community that we're building here, and we're going to talk about in just 1 minute? How much good do you think that is going to be able to do? God bless you, Final Blossom. $800. Everybody here is working class. Final Blossom is going to be going without to be able to make that super chat. Rest assured. Bless you for that sacrifice. Writing here, donating to the cause could get addicting. The community here is wonderful. My primary motivation is, of course, to support the cause, but my secondary motivation is to make sure Roy Danton doesn't hog too much of the glory. Final Blossom, thank you so much for that magnificent super chat. You and Roy and so many of the rest, Brant Danger, Zero Talent, everybody, Edgar Allan Poe. There's a poll. There's a super chat from him coming up here in a moment. All of you, absolute heroes, and I said it before. Final Blossom, you've absolutely earned yourself a spot in the Hall of Heroes. We are going to build, ladies and gentlemen, a Hall of Heroes one of these days, and all of these good people are their names are going to be there. All of you who are participating in any way, shape, or form, whether it's contributing princely sums like this and writing these great testimonials that you all write, passing out leaflets, whatever it is, getting into the conversations at pubs, at work, in blogs, whatever it is, you are going to be remembered for all time, because this is when heroes are born. This is when heroes are made out of normal people, because fear is normal. We will all feel it. Bravery is deciding to ignore it. That is what bravery is, and that's what will earn you all a spot in that Hall of Heroes. When finally the billionaires and the millionaires come along and they say, well, it looks safe enough now that all of those working class folks have endured the hardships and have established that safe zone. It's safe enough for me to now participate and expand it. Well, they'll be thanked, but you all will be remembered as the true heroes that were here at the very beginning. God bless you, Final Blossom. What a munificent donation. And mentioning, I love that, mentioning Roy in the comment. Both of you, true heroes in the cause. Thank you both for that. Let's get on to Edgar Allan Poe, and then you know what? Why don't we play a quick song? We'll do Fornell's song, since he is here or was here. Edgar Allan Poe super chatted $25. Thank you, my dear friend, over here in the familiar alternative down in the description, ladies and gentlemen. What should we do to recover from a bad encounter in which we let anti-whiteism slide because we weren't in a winning position or unsure of the mean curative to us? Fantastic question. Everybody listen up. I'm going to read it again. What should we do to recover from a bad encounter in which we let anti-whiteism slide because we weren't in a winning position or unsure of the mean curative to use? This is beautifully written. Thank you very much for the super chat and the question. Do not, if you are in a situation with an anti-white and they say something anti-white and you aren't sure of a really strong response, let that episode go. You're going to have a lot more. You know, unless it's a situation where, you know, you have say your children are present. If this is a one-time scenario, you're not going to have another chance in front of maybe this anti-white or another, say, a vague who is speaking some sort of anti-whiteism, expressing a mean pathogen, whatever it is. You're going to be back in their presence, and you're going to have another opportunity to help them go free. Don't make a fumbling attempt on them. It is much better to say, okay, they said X, Y, or Z. I'm going to come away from this. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to go look at Go Free, maybe ask others in the live chat, ask me during a Go Free stream or a tap or what have you. Hey, I encountered this. What do you think would work in that scenario? Don't make a fumbling attempt, because that might make it more difficult for you when you talk with the anti-white again in the future. So instead, it is much wiser to just step back, remember what they said, reflect, look at these different places, formulate an MC, look through the book. Maybe there's already an MC that you can see that will suit it, and then go back that next time, and you can bring that same conversation back up, that same point. You can say, hey, you know, I remembered we were talking about X last time, and you said this. I was thinking, and deliver the MC. That will be far more powerful than confusedly fumbling, going forward in that conversation. Because then when you come back and you say, oh, I should have used this, when you try to initiate that topic again, they are going to immediately throw a wall up, and they're going to say, oh, I don't want to hear it. Last time, you know, you came at me with whatever it was you came at me with. So it's much better, step away. Now, if you are in a one-off situation, say you're talking to an adult and your children are there. Too many parents, white parents, allow another adult to say something anti-white in front of their children, and then they just, you know, some of you right now are thinking, yeah, I did that. I've done that a couple of times. Some of you are thinking that it's okay to make mistakes. We're human. I make as much as anybody, if not more. So you think to yourself, okay, yeah, I've done that. Never do that again, ever, in front of any white children. Even if it's their white children, you're not there. You're the one there without white children. I've done it. I've done it where there has been an anti-white parent with their white children, and they've said something anti-white, and I have supported the children. I've defended the children from their own parent. So if I can do it, then you can do it. Certainly when it's your children. So if they say something anti-white, don't think to yourself, don't go, and then thinking in your head, I'll just tell my children something different when we get away from here. No, you have failed them. They're looking for you in that moment. You have just taught them that to speak up against anti-whiteism is dangerous, is immoral to speak out against anti-whiteism. It's socially unacceptable. You have just failed them. If another adult said to you, and your children are there, or it's their children, and another adult said, that drinking and driving, not such a bad thing. You know, that person, you know, they say they drank and drove the 20 years and nothing happened. Would you really just say, yeah, well, would you do that? Maybe some of you would, because you're so, you know, our people, we're just always wanting to be polite and always wanting to just let the other person save face and get away. But don't do that anymore. We've got to take care of each other. If somebody said something like that in front of children, you would say, that's stupid. That is stupid. Do not drink and drive. Look at the children and say, don't ever drink and drive. It is dangerous. It is illegal. So if another adult, if you have a scenario, Edgar, and you have an adult there, their children, your children, whatever it is, and they say something anti-white, like the only difference really is skin. Jones immediately say, no, it's not. There are innumerable differences between the races of man. That's just an anti-white lie. Why would you repeat that in front of your children? Why would you repeat that in front of my children? It's an anti-white lie. And then your children will respect you. They will actually have respect for you. I mean, if you think about it, especially if you're a man, but certainly with women as well, do you really want your children to see you slither away like a coward? Come on. So if it's a one-off situation, and even if you're going to bumble through it, object. Because in the extreme example I gave, children are going to be harmed if you don't try to at least object. I mean, at a bare minimum, in a situation like that, you could just say, oh, I completely reject that. That is odious. It is sickening. I completely reject that. Let's go, kids. And then if it's his kids, say, I'm sorry, kids, to the other person's children. I'm sorry your father thinks this way. I'm sorry your mother feels this way. That will have a huge impact. I guarantee you, there are children out there that have watched me talk to other adults this way. Maybe their parents. They're going to come up in years and they're going to say, oh my God, that no white guilt guy, that was the guy who put my mother in her place. I really respected him for doing that. I'll tell you stories. We don't have enough time. I'll tell you stories one day of how I stood up for the children, for other people's children when their parents were going bad. Heidi super chatted $10. Voice is trying to go. Super chatting $10. Thank you so much, Heidi. What a wonderful couple they are as well. You are blessed people. These days, I find myself agreeing with my late grandmother. She grew up in Germany before and after World War II. I was absolutely indoctrinated by my school, and now I just feel ashamed for that. Daily, I keep saying to myself, she was right about so much. Heidi, she can hear you. You tell her you're sorry. Reach out to her in your heart and let her know that you now realize you were wrong. Thank you for being a mature enough adult, really a hero, to be able to look back and say that you were wrong and that now you are on the right path, you're going free, and you are sorry. God bless you. What good people you all are. I love you both. Thank you very much for that, Heidi. Thank you for sharing that testimonial. That's worth tons and tons of gold for everybody hearing me speak your words. Thank you, Heidi. Okay, we just had a super chat come in on Google. Arch Nemesis super chatting $20. Thank you very much for that kind super chat, my dear friend. A contribution, I would guess, to helping save the white children of anti-white white parents. We could do it. Don't feel ashamed. I know you all can make it happen. Let's listen to a song, and I think we'll dedicate this song today for Null's No White Guilt. We will dedicate it today to everybody who has been super chatting, especially the shocker Final Blossom today, $800 super chat. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about something very exciting. And I'm going to try to recover my voice while we are. Well, let me see. Do I have something here? I do. I will read this quickly. Two more positive statements. This woman writing, "Hi, you are an inspiration, and you encourage me to be who I am. Thank you. I am a woman from Finland, enthusiastic. I want to heal and speak all that I know and who I am. I like your style and others. Red Ice, Ramsey Paul, Tina, and you all. The Halloween party was hilarious and educational. More like that, please." Well, thank you so much. I wouldn't be able to write a single word in your language, so thank you so much for reaching out. And I believe your name is pronounced Maruanica. So thank you so much, Maruanica. She also writes, "Happy Halloween." We have here from Heidi, who just super chatted. "Thank you, Jason. I'm so glad my husband found your channel and then your book. It has helped to really put things in perspective, and I see such a positive change in everything we do and how we feel about ourselves. It's just been wonderful. Thank you for everything you do." Heidi, thank you, my dear. And thank you and your husband and your whole family. I know you are taking everybody in the right direction, and God bless you for that. So let's see. We will get this up. We will watch. I see chain reaction over in the question widget. We won't miss anybody. We're going to listen to Fornull's Great Art, A Rising Star. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, when you can, pat these content producers on the back, these musicians. They are, and by pat them on the back, I mean if you can buy one of their songs, make a small contribution, do so. They are doing great works for the creation of our community, and we need them if we are going to succeed in the long run. We need them to know that their work is valued by giving them these pats on the back. So let's see if we can pull this up and get this playing for you all.
The things we build will bring what's ours. The white guilt.
That piece absolutely rocks. Can everybody hear me again okay? I should hope so. All of the settings are such that you should be able to hear me. There we go. A little bit of leftover, I think, there. A little bit of residual coming through the mic. Excellent. What a rocking tune that is, isn't it? But we have a lot of different styles of music, musicians that are coming forward, poets, and we're going to be sharing more regularly. In fact, tomorrow we're going to be doing a premiere, and I will save who that's going to be for until tomorrow. But we're going to be doing that, I think, a little bit more often, because we are continually expanding. We are bringing a lot of new eyes onto the work, the great work that we're doing here, and making it happen. And this is why we have to make it happen. The event horizon. How many of you all have heard me talk about the event horizon before? I've mentioned it a few times, and I've given some explanation here and there a little bit to just flesh out what I was talking about. But it's important that we wrap our heads around it so that you can understand exactly what we are moving toward. This is how you have to perceive the world if you are going to be able to ask the right questions. It is more important to ask the right questions than it is to find answers to the wrong questions. That might seem obvious on its face, but I can tell you right now, there are brilliant people out there, brilliant people who are, I guess, are not brilliant enough because they continue to ask the wrong questions and find the right answers to the wrong questions. Well, who gives a damn if you find the right answer to the wrong question? You have done nothing by doing so. So we are going to be talking about a way to conceptualize things that are going on. We were talking about conceptualizing the world as, and this cause and things that happen here in spheres. We talked about these different spheres and how they move together, how they move apart, how, like in quantum mechanics, they can be certain elements can be at two places at one time. This is just a way to conceptualize it. It's the same way that we use math to understand the physical universe. We use going free and white well-being to understand the social universe. Does that make sense? Does everybody follow that along? If we are making sense, if we are making gains, then others will be able to come on board and make gains with us. Simon Jester just super chatted $9.99. Thank you very much for that, my dear friend. The cover for Born Guilty has been a great conversation starter at work. Amen. Thank you for writing that testimonial, brother. Thank you for the super chat and for writing that testimonial. Indeed, I had a lot of pushback when it came to that cover, and I went ahead and went with what I believed would work, and indeed it has, in this case, at least vindicated my decision to go with the cover. But yeah, we had somebody who said that their 12-year-old instantly knew what was going on in the world and it understood the book by looking at that cover. The brand new baby is immediately seared with the brand of all of the slurs, all of the anti-white slurs, meaning that the baby has had no opportunity to do anything wrong. This is just an actor in the anti-white story, if you will allow yourself to be an actor in their story. But we here do not allow ourselves to be a player, an actor in their story. No, they fit into our story as the bad guys. So thank you very much for that. We also had Ryan Manley super chatting $4.99. Why do people assume labels are directed toward white people? Because I don't. Why do people assume labels are directed toward white people? Because I don't. I guess the labels of anti-white slur labels. Is that what you're talking about, brother? Ryan Manley, a great participant, always here all the time, and always a delight to see him. So many great people. So many great people are here. Sir Edmund, Johnny, Justin Lee. Freya is here. Good to see you. Poseidon is here right before the show. I guess he's getting warm, getting the I think it was 7:30. You start playing, I was told, Chain Reaction, Poseidon live in 15 minutes. Okay, thank you. Well, we're moving right along. We're going to make it happen. Syntheside is here, the great Syntheside. And Syntheside made a great song for us. We'll be playing on Going Free Stream at some point in the near future. Another one of our great musicians, ladies and gentlemen. Let's make sure that we do not allow the support shaming that takes place. Let that take place in the rest of the white positive sphere. When it comes to white well-being, the work we do here, the content creators that we pull in and wrap our arms around here, there is no support shaming. A person, even if a musician was a millionaire, I mean, they wouldn't need money from us to signify a pat on the back. But you should absolutely, if they make a song for us, you should pat them on the back. But rest assured, we're all working class people. These people are taking time out of their day, out of things they could be doing to get ahead, make a living, etc., to make music, to write poetry. And I hope there'll be more, make paintings, make digital graphics, sculpting. I want to see more artistic work. We will put it up here on this channel. It'll go on the tap.tv, the afterparty.tv channel. It will all become part and parcel of the work we are doing here. And when they do, when Syntheside makes music, make sure that he knows that you support the work with a purchase of a song or a donation in some other way, or if you have no money and you cannot do without the $1.99 for the song, then make sure you write and say, that was a fantastic piece you made for White Wellbeing. God bless you. So that at a minimum, he knows. And same with when it comes to me, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got nothing, if you can't get up, pass out a leaflet, if you've got nothing else, if you write me a message that says thank you, that will fill my heart with love for you. And it will drive me even harder for our people. So God bless you. I'm delighted that my dear brother Poseidon has joined us right before he goes live. I'll make sure that everybody goes over to your channel as soon as I'm done, brother, so we can be entertained into the evening by the smooth, dulcet tones of the Poseidon sea god. So let's get. It looks like HB is here. Great to see you. I know I missed a super chat. Angharad Celtic, great to see you, my dear lady. $30 over here on YouTube. The White Wellbeing community is a true community, and the very, very best people on earth. Love to you all. Well, love to you, my dear lady. Thank you very much for those beautiful words and that very kind super chat that we will put to good use for our babies. Let me get into this, ladies and gentlemen. Outrageously Inoffensive says, how dare anybody give people the opportunity to contribute voluntarily? That's outrageous. I know, it's crazy that so much of the white positive sphere, you go out there and you produce something and they say, well, you're going to give it all away for free, right? You spent the last how many days, weeks, months, years of your life. I spent years writing this. I wrote 3 versions simultaneously. Researching, we'll go into it. We can go into it another time. We talked about it before, but that was ultimately an 8-year project. Mandy's here. Got to head over to Poseidon Live. Thanks for a great stream. You're so welcome, my dear lady. Thank you for being here with us. Let's see, what else do we have here? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hit this, the event horizon. It's exciting to talk about it. And you should know about it for the way we use it. Now, what is a event horizon? Technically, an event horizon, I think the body of work where they talk about it is astrophysics. But I won't go into my opinions about some of these theories or whatever they want to call them these days. But it's supposedly on a black hole, there's a when you're viewing it out in space, there is a point at which something is beyond the horizon of it. I don't want to give we could talk about what that is some other time, but there's a point at which you cannot see what's happening beyond that point. And that I use the phrase event horizon for our coming opportunity. There is a great opportunity that is headed our way. And what essentially happens at the event horizon, and it is, ladies and gentlemen, it is approaching. It is rapidly approaching, and there are more signs of it every day. We'll talk about some of those signs in just a moment. But essentially, what happens at the event horizon, and we can't see beyond this societal, racial, national, cultural event horizon, because we cannot model human creativity. We cannot model exactly how a community is going to respond. Are they going to be courageous, or are they going to be pusillanimous? I mean, so since we can't model those things, there is a horizon there that we see that we can't see beyond. We can see up to that point. We can make legitimate predictions and assessments, etc., up to that point. After that point, everything there is just fiction writing. So what happens at that point, though? That what the edge is for us, the event horizon for us, is when the anti-white hegemony power structure begins to break down. And it breaks down to a point that opens the door for us. If we are powerful enough to get through that door, we can recapture our destiny. Now, ultimately, the way it is going to begin breaking up, there are a lot of mechanisms. We don't have a lot of time, but the easiest way to encapsulate and to understand in this moment is that anti-whiteism is composed of this infernal coalition of people who are only appear united because they have a common victim. So these anti-whites are not actually, these different subgroups of anti-whiteism are not actually united. They don't actually all like each other. They don't actually all tolerate each other. Not even a little bit. But they all have a single victim. So they appear to us to be united. Now they know that they're not united. They're talking about this. I've mentioned this before. The anti-white elites, those who are paid to strategize, those who are paid to figure out how to keep this giant infernal train to hell running on the tracks, they are very worried about what we're calling the event horizon. Now, what exactly is it? It is that moment. Now, it's a difficult thing to ascertain because we're talking about human perception, and we're talking about the perception of individuals and then of those individuals that compose the different groups. Now, you have the racial groups, but then you also have religious groups, and then you have different subgroups of those groups. So it makes it very difficult to ascertain exactly where the perception is, but we can see signs. Now, the perception I'm talking about is the perception of, I guess we could say, for the average anti-white person, not white, non-white, whatever religion, doesn't matter, is whether or not they are able to perceive and convince themselves that white people still hold some predominant power, that they're not, that they're on the ascendancy, or that they're robust, they're strong forever, whatever it might be, the anti-white narrative. At some point, and this is already happening now, there are anti-whites of all stripes who are looking at the white race, and they're already saying, white race is defeated. It's over for them. Their numbers are shrinking. How many of you out there have heard that with increasing regularity each year? More and more anti-whites saying, you're done. You're not having babies. You're not standing up for yourselves. This is, how many of you all are hearing that? I'm hearing it more every month. Every month. Every year, when you look back over the years, how many anti-whites, say back in the 80s, would have said, oh, you all are finished? How about back in the 60s? You all are done. Well, the die was already cast back then. We already had lost control of our destiny. But nobody, or few people, were perceiving it. Now, every year, many more anti-whites perceive that the white race is done. That is a big problem for the anti-white elites, because as that percentage grows in each category, those individuals in those categories are going to look around, and they're going to say, I know the anti-white narrative is that the white race are the only bad guys. The Western kind, they're the bad guy. Westman, everywhere I go, it's the Westman is the bad guy. But the white race is finished. They're not the real contender for me and my group and my personal. Remember now, when it comes to non-white groups, this may or may not be true, but when it comes to them, they are much more aware than we are that their individual well-being is determined by their group's well-being. So they are going to look out there with eyes that are not like yours at all. We are relearning that here in Going Free, that our individual well-being is achieved by way of our group well-being. We are relearning that. But the non-white people are going to look out at the world, and they're going to say, as my selfish interests are at stake, and I know the anti-white narrative is that it's the Westman, but I also know that the Westman is finished. This is going to be their perception. It has nothing to do with objective reality. The perception that we are finished. And that perception is rapidly growing. It's spreading. And the anti-white elites are terrified of it. So as they say that, they then say to themselves, who else then is the competitor for my well-being? It's no longer the Westman. Who is it then? Is it going to be this other group over here that wears this kind of hat or that kind of hat? Is it going to be this other group here that has this kind of hair or that kind of hair? This different religion or that different religion? And the moment that happens, our opportunity opens like a supernova detonating, to continue with the metaphor of space. Because as they turn to each other in concern for their individual well-being and they worry about the other anti-white subgroups, we will be forgotten. And as we are forgotten in their minds, and they begin to exact horrible injustice on each other, those will not be things that will be easily overcome in the following years. They'll remember, just like we remember in Europe, that battle that was fought 2,000 years ago, and it created this line in the sand, and now we hate the people on the other side because the anti-whites throughout the West are not going to be able to forget and overcome what the future injustices that will be done by the other non-white groups or the other anti-white groups out there. They will hold deep animosity, and the anti-white elites won't be able to bring them all back together easily to be able to wield them like a club against us. That, you see, is the opportunity. This is the event horizon I talk about. So, what has to happen there? When we reach the event horizon, we have to be powerful enough to recapture our destiny at that moment. And when I say that moment, it's not going to be a day or weeks or months. There are going to be years of opportunity, a window of opportunity for us to recapture our destiny and to set things right once again for us. We have to be powerful enough to do that at that moment. There is not going to be another opportunity until long after societal collapse, long after dystopia, long after Mad Max environment. That will be the moment that we have to strike and recapture our destiny. That will be the weakest the anti-whites will have been since they came to power, is that event horizon. We will be ready for it. Now, what are the signs of it? Some of the signs we'll just run through quickly. Hyper-censorship. Censorship is going through the roof. Just ask yourself 10 years ago, 20 years ago, what would it have been like to speak out against, to be a heretic? So we have hyper-censorship taking place, getting worse all the time. I mean, look at Red Ice just censored off of, we can name so many more. Rising socio-political and thought oppression. People are being jailed all over the West. People are being, Johnson just kicked out unceremoniously of a country. Jared Taylor, so many others. A guy I spoke about out on the West Coast, record so clean, he could have a concealed carry permit, and the country of Canada didn't like his ugly tattoos and funny way that he waved. And so the country banned him from entering. Massive rising sociopolitical and thought persecution, signs of the coming event horizon. Why are they signs? Because the anti-white elites, they know this is a desperate time that's coming for them. They need to stop us from creating community. They know that that is what will afford us the opportunity to recapture our destiny during those weakest years of their power. Purity spiraling is another sign of the approaching event horizon. We see anti-whites victimizing other anti-whites, bringing them before these anti-white tribunals, socially lynching them because they're not anti-white enough. Increasingly, we see this purity spiraling in anti-whiteism, lynching their own anti-whites. Innumerable programs. We just had Edgar Allan Poe tell us about one. At work, at universities, these are proliferating beyond count that compel you practically at the point, a bayonet point, to be anti-white. Again, everything they can do to stop our community from coming to fruition, from being able to form that nucleus that can raise that banner to recapture our destiny. You remember that thing we talked about months ago about how there couldn't be a civil war under any concept, and these people started trying to move the goalpost. No, when I say civil war, I actually mean nothing like civil war. No, There can't be resistance if there isn't a nucleus. We're building a nucleus to recapture our destiny. So, as I said, we talked about the anti-white subgroups are beginning to perceive themselves increasingly as individual groups who have as competitors or challenges to their individual well-being and therefore their group's well-being, that have as competitors not just the white race, and increasingly less so, because they believe white race is finished. So it's not this race that's the problem anymore. It's this maybe non-white race, or it's this religious group, or it's this political group. You can all give examples of that. I see it everywhere. Never seen this much disunity. And it is rapidly growing. So we see these increasing schisms. You'll see, and this is, mark my words, over the coming next 5 years, big fractures in the monolith of anti-whiteism. Big fractures. You'll see prominent individuals speaking out against other anti-white subgroups. And the anti-white media will do everything it can to play it down, to try to buy them off some more time. Just stick with the program a little bit longer. But you'll see it more and more. You'll hear about it more and more. Now is the time, ladies and gentlemen, that we have to be doing what we're doing. That we have to be building community. We have to build community like there is no tomorrow. Like we don't have any tomorrow to do any building with. We have to build through the night. So ask yourself, what is community? Community is family. Community are men and women getting together, getting married. Community is having babies. Community is teaching them to be white positive, teaching them to go free, teaching them to serve white well-being. And those who cannot have children, those people have to be contributing in every way that they can to community. Culture, art, literature, writing, philosophy, fiction, nonfiction. Every element is needed. Everything is needed. There is no small part here. We need to build community, and there's no line separating digital community from real IRL. I'm doing IRL all the time, and it's the exact same thing. I have the exact same love here I have in person. Don't let anyone tell you differently. We need to be building community as rapidly as we can. That means we have to be helping people to go free. We need to be bringing them into this, the only real community building project, because you have to have the psychology. You can't just get a bunch of people together. You have to address the psychological element. Look at South Africa. That is what happens when you just get a bunch of people together and say, let's try to resist. That's not enough. You need to address the psychological element, which means you need to address the psychological warfare that has been inflicted on us. That is what we are doing with going free. That is why we have these conversations. That is why I come to you again and again and again, so that we can heal ourselves and then heal our loved ones and our friends. And all of the time building community. All of the time increasing the variety of things like the music we have, of the literature that we have, that we create. Don't you dare let an anti-white tell you that anything that we're making is anything less than the filth that they produce. And don't you dare allow yourself to think otherwise. Here's the thing you have to understand. Listen close to this. Power in this universe, with the human animal, power is intelligence and money. Intelligence and money. That is power. And it can be broken down into a more complex dynamism. What you need to understand is intelligence and money. If you have enough intelligence and enough money, you rule the world. intelligence, and money. Now, the reason why I'll just briefly say money is because money is the medium by which it's the thing we use to trade for the things we need, for the things we want. That means, like it or not, that people are bought. And we can go over this another day, and we can talk more deeply about it, but of course we're running out of time. There is something that can be wielded as a counterweight against money. Does anybody know what it is? We have the intelligence. We have brilliant people serving White Wellbeing. We have enough intelligence. Money helps, but we're never going to have enough money. The contributions given today are magnificent, absolutely breath-catching. When I saw all of these great super chats today, these great investments in the cause of White Wellbeing, and especially Final Blossoms, it took my breath. That our people are rising now, that there are heroes like the folks whose names I'm reading out, creating art, making investments. All of that is valuable, but it doesn't compete with the infinite supply of money that anti-whites can print. So we need a counterweight. The counterweight to that infinite money is community and faith. That is the counterweight. That is what we can wield against the anti-whites and their infinite sums of money. Now, faith, is particularly in the Christian sphere, was defeated by money a long time ago. Some people say that, and they're wrong, that Christianity failed and then money slithered in. No, money defeated Christianity. It took the place, it took control of the power centers. And it's a complex discussion there as well. But our faith will be a faith to ourselves. Our community will be a community composed of those of us who are going to be faithful to who and what we are above all else, above all values, above all morals, above all ethics, will be this grand moral, this grand ethic, this grand cause. And that is the cause of our biospirit, the thing which gives us life and gives us the ability to think of things beyond ourselves. Those will be the people who will stand most powerful in those days. Intelligence and money on their side, intelligence and community, faith on ours. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not voting or violence. It is community and faith. So from now on, when these folks who have, it's quite understandable that when you are eye level in the mud of modern day, and all you can see are what brilliant anti-white rhetoricians and those working on the psychological warfare being wielded against you, all you are able to see are these two routes. Well, we're either going to vote and have our success, or violence and have our success. You have been handed a false dichotomy, and it's okay to be wrong, but you are a fool if you continue to be wrong. There is a third route. It's neither voting nor violence. It is community and faith. And with community and faith and an iron will, we are going to recapture our destiny. That I can promise you. You all will be with me, heroes, in that tomorrow when we recapture that destiny. We won't have to go through a societal collapse. It will be us, our children, and their children will take back our destiny. And never again will this happen. Not because we write some document for the ages, but because we give ourselves to a faith that as long as our hearts beat, that faith survives. No looking to something beyond. When you look for the reason to fight, you look into the eyes of our babies. And if that's not enough for you, something's broken inside. So let me see what we have here. Final comments before my voice finally gives out. I must have some kind of something, but and get the final super chats over here on Ko-fi. We have Last PaleoCon. Haven't seen you in a while. Great to see you again, my dear friend. Super chatting on Ko-fi, $3. Don't let them push us toward a brother's war with Russia. Amen to that. We are absolutely not. Everyone is welcome in the cause, in the service to white well-being. And we will not allow another brother's war. $6 over on Ko-fi from Lawrence. Thank you very much, my dear friend. Didn't write any verbiage, but the $6 saying a lot. Thank you so much. Brad over on Ko-fi, $6. Hello, Jason. It's great to be back. I missed the last couple of live streams and missed participating in the live Going Free community. Hail, brother. Well, hail to you in return, Brad. It's magnificent to have you back. Thank you for being able to return and for these testimony, these great words that others are hearing. So that, I think, is what we have on Ko-fi. Ladies and gentlemen, get your final questions or statements in. Tag me so that I can see them. I see the great Roy Danton is here. See him over there on gardening with NWG. I know that Poseidon has recently gotten underway, and we want to go over there and check out his stream. So thanks to everyone who is joined us on Gardening with NWG. Let's make sure we have everybody over here, that we didn't miss a soul. And like I said, don't fret if your super chat arrives after the stream concludes. I will be reading it the next time we get together for a Going Free stream. So just be aware, I will be doing other streams before the next Going Free stream the next Sunday. So that will be then that I will read your super chat. We have Steven over on Cash App, super chatting $45. Thank you, my dear friend. And writing here, $45, white, for past white, future white, present white, and love. Amen to that. Very well written. Thank you, my dear friend. And a great super chat from you. Wonderful participant in the community. Stephen, great to see you. And then we have Sloths. Love that name. Super chatting $10 over here on Cash App. I wish I had time to stick around. Keep doing what you do. Well, we will, brother. You keep doing what you do, and make sure that you empower yourself with the MCs so that when you're out there in the world working for a living, as we have to do, as opposed to so many who vote for a living in the West these days, make sure that you are thus empowered and are able to bring the message of white well-being to your friends, family, and strangers, and help them to go free. Bring more people to the calls. That's the best thing that all of us can do. Let's see here. We have Nathan over on Ko-fi, super chatting $3. Making non-whites culturally comfortable is making whites uncomfortable in our country. Precisely. That is exactly what happens in our countries. Our people gave their love, gave their struggle, gave their pain, lost limbs, gave blood, gave their eyesight, gave love, gave their lives so that all of that territory could be safe for you, could be safe for us. And now the anti-whites would have us give this up. So now there are places in a stone's throw from where I am that if I go there, I'll be murdered. I will be beaten to death if I go to any of those places. That is insane. My ancestors didn't build Western civilization so that I could be sequestered and not murdered or made to feel uncomfortable where I am. You never know how white you are until you go into that all non-white part of town. And now that's Nothing wrong with the the non-white people projecting their biosphere. It's completely normal. That's completely normal, but not to my detriment. It's not. I did not go over to their countries and force Western civilization upon them. And we can both their people, and we condemn any anti-white, white plutocrat or what have you that harmed the white population as much as the non-white population, so that he or she could get wealthier. We can both damn them. But I should not have to feel uncomfortable in any inch of soil in the country created in the Western civilization, any of them created by my people. If it's Western civilization, if Western kind built that country, I should be safe in every square inch. I should feel harmony in every square inch. And there shouldn't be any non-white person out there who thinks there's anything wrong with that. They should say, yes, you should. Just as if I was living in China, I would absolutely think that the Chinese should be comfortable in the neighborhood I live in. It should feel like home to them. It's their country. So it is a great point, Nathan. Nathan back again, $3 on Ko-fi. Absolutely critical information you are giving tonight, Jason, about the event horizon. I now see exactly why white well-being is exactly what the elites fear. People that are united and proud of being white is our biggest power and their biggest weakness. Ladies and gentlemen, Nathan has gotten it. Have you? Nathan understands. Do you understand? It isn't voting. It isn't violence. It's community and faith, a service to white well-being. You're not going to be able to inflict harm on Western kind if you are in service to white well-being, irrespective of how much money might be used to try to buy your ass off. Because you would have to work with a bunch of white people who wouldn't also be at the same time being bought off, and they would see what you're trying to do. You see the difference now. This isn't some sort of a, I mean, you all are obviously above average intelligence. It's just, this notion that the reason why, and one of the main reasons why the old structures fell to intelligence and power is because the faith was to something beyond life. The faith was to something that was going to happen later. Now the faith is in the eyes of that baby. The faith is in the eyes of that senior citizen that reared you and fed you, and now sick and old and tired looks to you for help. And what kind of a person would turn away from that? I'll tell you this, it's the kind we won't have. That's why we will be the ones who will pass through the eye of the needle. The other ones that say, well, to hell with the baby, to hell with the seniors, those folks, they won't be making it through. That anti-white machine out there that hasn't gotten to them yet, rest assured, those gears will chew them up too. Well written, Nathan. Thank you very much. Bill Ahura, great to see you again, brother. $6. Jason, this stream is so vital. Every bit of this information for our people's horizon opportunity and what we must do at that juncture, that I have not even moved to start my wood heater fire, my wood heater fire or cook stove fire yet. Your leadership is vital, brother. God bless. Well, God bless you, Bill Ahura. Don't freeze on account of us. But ladies and gentlemen, Bill Ahura is sharing there something that is absolutely simultaneously intellectual and primal, something that is physical and spiritual, that you are sharing in a message here that you're saying, oh my God, that is it. And you are so enveloped by it. The reality that this is the path that we have to tread, that this will work, that your physical discomfort is ignored. Thank you for sharing that, Billahor. That is wonderful, brother. Let me jump over here. We have Teddy Net News over on the Familiar Alternative, super chatting $5. Thank you very much. Great to see you again. Writing, hi, Jason, how are you? I am fantastic. Something trying to crawl over my vocal cords, but trying to chase my voice away from me tonight, but I'm not going to let it. I'll speak through whatever kind of discomfort. We have Bill O'Hora saying, suffering the discomfort of hunger and cold, and I'm talking right through whatever's happening in my throat. I won't even bother to say what it feels like. Edgar Allan Poe, super chatting $5. Oh, we have the Familiar Alternative. Thank you, my good sir. Interned here in these halls of fame. Great heroes, deftly disseminating shame. A great river merits the label awesome. A contribution without contrition from our dear friend, Final Blossom. That is brilliant. Brilliantly, if it wasn't so blurry for me, that I would have read that better. Brilliantly written, Edgar Allan Poe, just in time. Interned here in these halls of fame. Great heroes, deftly deftly dismissing shame. Great heroes, deftly dismissing shame. A great river merits the label awesome. A contribution without contrition from our dear friend, Final Blossom. Beautiful, Edgar Allan Poe. My hat's off to you. Thank you for that. A fantastic poem. I could have done it much more justice on a better throat and clearer screen. Okay, I think that is everybody over here. And let me just jump down, have a final look over here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always a blessing to be with you all. Oh, we have over on Entropy. Looks like we have some super chats here, and we will address every single one of those. And then we will race out of here and go watch Poseidon, answer any questions you all have left. We have Roy Danton, the great Roy Danton, super chatting $25 on Entropy, writing, we just had this holiday on November 1st where we traditionally mourn the dead. It made me sad thinking about what more I could have done in the past had I discovered your lexicon a long time ago. Let me tell you, brother, only a real man would write something like that. Thank you, Roy. That's fantastic. And you know what you do with that fire, that question. And you ask yourself, how much more could I ask myself that all the time. Have I used every minute I could? Have I used every hour and every day I could to the best of my ability for our people? You all will be saying the same things to yourselves. Just as Roy said, what I wish I had known this a long time ago, how much more I could have done. Use that as a fire to spur you on today, my dear friend. That is what real adult men and women do. Thank you, my good friend. A sign that Roy, once again, is a real hero. And ladies and gentlemen, get your celebrating emojis and clapping emojis ready because the party hasn't ended just yet. Roy, even though we're trying to turn the lights off, and this just keeps going, ladies and gentlemen. Roy, $100 super chat over here on Entropy. Hats off to you. Salute to you. Salute to Final Blossom, everybody who has super chatted tonight, and to Edgar Allan Poe, who wrote that that fantastic poem as well. Roy writing here, we have a very bright future ahead for us. But how do you get over the sadness that comes with the realization of how much more you could have done had you known about this 5, 10, or even 20 years ago? Indeed, speaking again about and revealing that you are a real man, brother. Thank you so much. And you do it just as I say. You put that in the fire that spurs you. Remember, anger and love, that is the greatest motivator to the human animal. Nothing like anger and love. You wed those two things and you let that fire burn. Sometimes it'll be brighter, sometimes dimmer, but you wed those two things and you let it burn, and there'll be nothing that you cannot achieve. You will do far more than you could have ever dreamed in your life. I can guarantee you this. Let's see if I have anybody else over here that I missed. I think I might have had maybe not. A super chat on YouTube that I could have missed, but I don't see it. Maybe I was imagining things. Oh, no, I think it was, I got it. Simon Jester. That's who yep, I got you, brother. We read you a little earlier. Now let's see over here. Questions in the question widget over on Entropy. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that you can watch this entire stream over on Entropy, where you can read the chats that are being made by others on YouTube. You can also chat there, although your chats there can't be read on YouTube. They won't appear there. But you can ask questions in a question widget here, and you can vote on questions in that question widget. And of course, you can also super chat and watch the show right here on Entropy. Great group of folks who are doing good things. Chain reaction. I need advice. Brought my girlfriend to meet the family, and it was a mess. The wife was screaming. The kids were crying. That's good. That's funny. If I wouldn't have been so rough right now, I tell you, that would have elicited a much more robust laugh. But that's funny. Brought the girlfriend to meet the family, and it was a mess. The wife was screaming. The kids were crying. That's funny. If you have good jokes to tell during going free streams, put them in the question widget, or tag me. And if they're good, funny, clean jokes, and nothing lewd. You all know that. We are always on interview for our brothers and sisters. So they're going to come in, and we don't want to see crude, crass jokes, certainly nothing that is going to make personify the anti-white stereotype. You don't want to appear like that. So those questions otherwise or jokes otherwise are great. Just stay away from that sort of stuff. Clean, funny jokes will be read, absolutely. Is this Decanus? Did this just come in? $5 Australian. Writing East Asian male here. Remember that your race is your extended family. Take care of your family first. Brother, God bless you. Thank you very much. I have, there is a Japanese man who was one of the first subscribers to my channel and supports White Wellbeing. He's going through schooling and everything, so he can't in Japan. So he shows up every now and again, and you are most welcome, as is he, to support White Wellbeing and fight by our sides for all that is right and noble and good, just as our people have stood by the side of yours and do to this day, and helping your people, your lesser well-off members, your struggling members, your impoverished members. So we welcome you. Thank you for showing up, especially when we know that the anti-whites would really have some nasty slurs for the non-white people who support White Wellbeing. God bless you. Thank you for showing up and demonstrating yet again that White Wellbeing is a community that welcomes all, irrespective of any immutable characteristic. The only requirement here is that you have to serve White Wellbeing. That is the only requirement. Roy Danton. Oh, we have John Smith. How and when do you talk about the chief anti-whites? The chief anti-whites. Well, all anti-whites, let's rephrase it this way. When you serve White Wellbeing, you're going to protect our family from all anti-whites, both big and small, both chiefs and privates. You don't have to worry about singling out. We allow the world around us to decide whether they are going to be anti-white or not. There is an important reason for that. And perhaps we'll talk about it some other time. But it is extremely important on a number of levels why we don't put people into boxes. We let them put themselves into boxes. For us, there is only really, you're going to be serving White Wellbeing or you are anti-white. People who are neither are really gray on the sidelines for our well-being. They're not going to be undermining us. They're not going to be supporting us. They're just kind of gray out there, vagues in the world. But we allow people to decide whether or not they're going to be anti-white, and then we act accordingly. You should be able to think through that, my friend. Roy Danton on the question widget. Oh, wait, did I miss a joke? I thought it was serious. And it utterly confused me. I didn't, I don't, did you really? Or you you're probably just joking with us as well. No, that was hilarious. If that wasn't a joke, boy, what a life you have going on there. I suggest if for anybody, if that's not a joke, it's time to go free and get away from degeneracy. I just rhymed without intending to. All right, let's make sure really quick that we've gotten everybody. I love you all. We have the community is continuing this evening over on Poseidon's channel. And if you all know where it is, I think probably HB is here. HB has already done it. HB has posted Poseidon's link. So as soon as we sign off, use that link to head on over to Poseidon. He is one of the sterling members of our community, helping us to grow White Wellbeing, which is a global phenomenon. Global phenomenon. We're not just nationalists. That is stupid. We're not going to be broken up again. If we break up into nationalism again, we will be led into brothers' wars. So we will not break up that way again. Having said that, it presupposes that we will magnify the variety of our particular hue of Western civilization in all of our countries. So Greeks will be more Greek when we recapture our destiny. Southerners will be more Southern when we recapture our destiny. No more of this petty dividing over things that are irrelevant. These ultimately, when it comes down to it, we are a people with many countries. We are not many countries with something in common. 41 BMC, thank you for another amazing stream. Thank you so much, brother. Let me see, I'm just scrolling really quickly before we sign off to make sure I don't want to miss any of the important, anything anybody needed to say to me or ask. And we will be back tomorrow night. There will be a premiere. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. You'll have to wait for the surprise. It's another lovely piece of music we're going to be listening to. I'll just say that. And then Tuesday on with Jared George, a after hours. Wednesday with Mark Collette with PWR. Thursday, the after party tap with Jared George. And we will just continue marching. Friday, another premiere. I won't tell you what it's going to be. So things are getting busy, ladies and gentlemen, but we're going to make it happen. I thank you for being the folks that you are at heart, in your soul, when you're all alone, and you know very well who you are. When you can't lie to anyone, it's only you looking back at you in that mirror. You know the kind of person you are. You know the kind of life you live. You know the kind of decisions you make when you're all by yourself. You know how you want to be remembered, that you want to be remembered. And that is why you are here. That's why you've stopped smoking. That's why you got off the path to suicide. That's why you stopped using the opium. That's why you're eating better and working out. That's why you're talking about going free at the pub, with the coworkers where you can safely do so, at school. That's why you're here, to build this community, because this is it. This community will be the thing that is the key that unlocks our prison, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, let's go free.